but I wanted to say good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our capacity building webinar. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Alicia Walls. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at the Community Foundation. And we are really excited to be able to offer this opportunity to our local charities. These upcoming grant cycles mark a really dramatic shift in our grant making here as far as our competitive cycles go. And so we wanted to take this opportunity to provide you with a little bit of information about some of the changes you're going to see whenever you review the grant application this year, and provide you with some really great examples of how you can work to build a strong application for your charity. So as a matter of housekeeping, I just wanted to let everyone know that we are recording this seminar so we can share it later with you if you'd like to refer to the information provided, as well as anyone else who might not be able to attend right now. And everyone did come in under mute. So if you happen to accidentally unmute your microphone, we ask that you please keep it muted unless you have a question. We'll be stopping periodically throughout the presentation for questions, and we'll certainly have lots of time at the end. So if there's anything you need to know, just remember to unmute yourself and let us know how we can help you with that. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Karen Spar, our Manager of Allocations and Programs here at the Community Foundation, and she's going to walk you through some really great information about how you can craft a strong capacity building request. So Karen, thanks.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for taking the time today to join us. And so just a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to learn about our upcoming capacity building grant and what capacity building is, as far as how and you can apply, where to go, and what constitutes an attractive project or an application. So we're going to have the steps to create a clear and concise, compelling project narrative for your application. And so we hope that by the end of this, you will have all the tools that you need to fulfill your application, and just know that I'm here for any assistance too throughout. So with that, I think we'll get started. So as you see, our first slide here is about the capacity building cycle. And so what is capacity building? So capacity building, it strengthens your organization's ability to fulfill its mission. So with that, I thought of an idea that, so Teach for America's mission is growing the movement of leaders who work to ensure that kids growing up in poverty get an excellent education. So when you think about how could we strengthen this mission? So a way to maybe strengthen that mission would be maybe a training for the leaders would enhance their skills. So I just use that as an example of how you could strengthen an organization, and that's just one of many. So it also focuses on furthering the organization's ability to do things or improve what you currently do. So you're all doing such strong work out there, and so we're thinking of, that would be an idea where maybe you have a service and extending it, you now have full capacity and you want to extend it. So maybe you see a new programming extension or to a different area, or extending your service. So another capacity building, also it is the process of developing your organization's strengths and sustainability. So we all know that grants are great while they're here, but we also always need to be thinking of beyond. So that's very important of how will we, if we have a project, how will we, after the funding is gone, how are we going to be able to keep that service or keep that project going? So maybe you have great leadership, but you have those folks that are they're trying to also market. So maybe you need to create a new position that would allow you to extend your leadership in a different capacity. So when can we make applications? So with the capacity building grant, we have 2 cycles. So we will open this cycle July 1st with a deadline of August 1st. And then our cycle 2 will open September 1st to October 1st will be our deadline. So not too far away. So the overview of the capacity building. So we're really excited that we were able to roll this out with the awards ranging from $5,000 to $50,000. I'm fairly new to the foundation, but I also know that this is pretty new as well. So we're excited to hear about some of your projects and to extend that award amount. So between both cycles, we will be able to provide grants that will total in totality $250,000. So that's pretty exciting for us to be able to give that help out in Washington County. And with that, we award in many areas. So these aren't new to some of you. These are also the areas that we have had, and they're on our website as well. So if you go to Grant Seekers, you will see all of the grant information, and you can also view these there. But the different areas are arts and humanity, which may benefit art education or art appreciation, historical projects in the community, community improvement, projects that focus on strengthening cultural education, social services, perhaps. So there are, and as I said, I'm just reading a few that limit, or the list is on our site. Education, projects to enhance education experience for people of all ages, including literacy or lifelong learning. Environmental and animal welfare protects to ensure anything out there that would be environmental and protecting the ecosystem, or agricultural projects would fall under that category. Health and fitness, projects that promote physical or emotional health, including medical services, counseling. We know that mental health is an area that is a need in Washington County. I've heard that a lot, so that would be something under the health. Human needs, projects that give aid or comfort, support or assist to children, senior citizens, anything along those lines. And religious and faith-based projects that promote sharing and understanding and importance of spiritual growth and development. So those are some of the areas. Also, too, if you are awarded in cycle 1, you cannot apply in cycle 2. Merely for the fact that we want to be able to give our help throughout the county. And so we did put that as something new for this cycle. So where do you begin? So it starts with brainstorming, which we know we do all day long. And so your project that you're thinking of, when you're doing that brainstorming, you should be thinking of how can this increase my operational, programmatic, or financial, or organization maturity? How are those things going to come into play? So the organization maturity is to advance or to move forward. With our organizations, we always want to be looking ahead. And as times are changing, sometimes they're changing really fast right now, at least I've noticed. So in organization maturity is the measurement of an organization's readiness and capability expressed through its people, processes, data, and technology. So if we're spending more time, an example of that would be if we've heard a lot about donor software. So if we're spending a lot of our time putting in those donors and getting that spreadsheet just so, a way that we could mature our organization would be maybe we add a donor software that would do that part for us. And that would certainly move us forward. So how do we apply for the grant? Well, the request must be made through our online application process, which some of you are familiar with. And if you enter our website at www.wccf.net, you can go to Grant Seekers, and that's where we put all of our grant opportunities. There'll be an apply button there, and so you'll be able to make application right from there. Applicants should provide a clear and concise and compelling project narrative. So what does that mean? So clear means easy to understand. We want to be able to know exactly how are you going to do your project? What are the steps that are going to be taken? And to be concise, it needs to be to the point. So again, zone in on tell us exactly how you're going to accomplish your task. And compelling, it must be powerful and have an effect. We want it to be effective, and we want it to also, have an effective outcome. and how is it going to change things for our community or for your organization. The needs of the project should tell who and what will benefit from the project, and the goals of the project that are going to be achieved. Measurable outcomes expected, which we're going to talk about in the next few slides. Provide detail of execution of the project. So we want, in the project description, we want you to be able to tell us, exactly what the steps are. What is your timeline? And provide a comprehensive project budget, which we all know everything has to have a budget, right? So that brings us to what are outcomes? So an outcome statement describes specific changes in your knowledge that you expect to occur as a result of your actions. So I always think of an outcome statement. It answers the questions who, what, when, and how. So I did some color coding here, and there's a purpose for that, and you'll see it in the next few slides. So who will do the task? Sometimes we will get those projects and we have it in our mind as who's going to do it, but we don't always put it on the application. So it's really important to spell out like who will be fulfilling this task and what responsibilities do each person have or department. What will they do? That's again for that project description. What exactly are they going to do? How are you going to reach the end goal? And when will we evaluate? We all know that we need to show progress in everything we do. And so how are we going to evaluate along the way as well? And then we should see the outcome when. When is the beginning, the middle, and the end of your project? How are we going to make the changes? Make the change, and what steps will we take to see the change? So a little more into detail about that is, and I like this little clip art here, don't wait for it to happen, make it happen yourself. So that's what we're going to do with some of these applications. So the change we would like. So we started with that brainstorming. And when I think about it, this was one that came to mind. Is like the change that we make is by next year, we'll be more effective. And every organization wants to be more effective. But by making that statement, that's certainly not an outcome that we can, how are we going to do it? It doesn't answer the question. Who's going to do it? What are we going to do? When are we going to be more effective? And how are we going to be more effective? So I put stop there, put the brakes on, and we need to extend upon that. So this is more or less a goal for us. It's not yet an outcome because it's not clear, it's not concise, and it's not compelling. And so, but we can expand upon it, and we're going to do that by using some SMART goals approach here in this few slides. So we can add the who, the what, the when, and how. So I recreated that same statement by expanding upon it. So if we say by October 1st, we've answered the when, we, meaning our organization, will increase programming attendance by 20 patrons. So we've given the what. What are we going to do? This is what we're going to do. We're going to increase by 20 patrons. Through how are we going to do it? Through our social media advertising. So we have now answered all four of those questions by just expanding upon our brainstorm goal. So by August 1st, we will increase programming attendance by 20 patrons through our social media advertising. There's no more question. We've answered them all. So we said it needed to be measurable also. Outcomes need to be measurable. Measurable outcomes are statements that will let you know when you've reached your goal or your progress. So they're will statements. We will increase our donors by 25% through our outreach efforts by July 1st. So we've given when we will do it, who will do it, and how we will do it. And our end result is we're gonna know that we're at the end, if our donors if we've reached by 25%, we've increased them, we've met our outcome. So we have to give it a timetable of evaluation. I talked a little bit about SMART goals. And so some of you may be familiar with the SMART goal approach. The SMART goal approach is an acronym that stands for our goals must be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And so you might ask yourself, what exactly does that mean? Well, specific answers the who, what, when, and where. So just like we were talking, it considers who needs to be involved to achieve the goal. Think about exactly what you're trying to accomplish, and don't be afraid to get very detailed. When is, you'll be more specific about the question under time-bound sections of definite SMART goals. So where is it going to take place? And why? Why are we doing this? So we are going to, the measurable we talked about, we need to give it a timeline. We need to say how we're going to measure it throughout, how we're going to know we've reached our goal. And so to be achievable, this is how important your goal is to you and what you can do to make it attainable or achievable. In some situations, I've seen both words used to explain it, and relevant. So is it relevant to what we're trying to do? Is the goal that we're going to launch a new project, should it be something that aligns with what our objectives are, what our mission is? And then time bound. You always can set goals, and you can set more than one goal as well throughout. So this technique is going to allow us to transform your goal into, again, a clear, concise, and compelling objective or outcome statement. So this is a little slide that I saw and thought I would share with you. So specific, again, is exactly what you want to achieve. Measurable, how will you know that you've achieved it? And attainable is something you have control over. Do we have enough staff to do this project? Do we have enough staff to reach these outcomes? You want to make sure it's achievable. You don't want to put yourself out there to promise something that you don't have the staff to be able to reach. Is it relevant? Why is it applicable to us? How is this going to help us to extend our mission or to mature our organization? And time-based. When do you want to achieve your goal? Is it going to be 6 months? Do we hope by summer? Did we give ourselves enough time to really be successful? So it brings me to think of one that I found and thought I would share too, is a personal SMART goal. So my overall goal might be, I want to lose weight and be in better health. So to be specific, how am I going to do that? Remember, I was going to ask those questions of myself. So I'll cut down on junk food as the first step towards overall good health. That's going to help me. Measurable, how am I going to know how I'm doing? Well, by December, I will only eat organic food and healthy snacks in my pantry. I think I really need to take this one and print it out, keep it at my desk. But anyways, so that's measurable. I know in December is my measurement. And is it achievable? I'll see a nutritionist to design a healthy eating habit or eating plan. So yeah, I can do that. That's going to be something that's going to help me to reach my goal. Is it relevant? This will cure some nagging ailments. So I'm going to feel better about myself. I'm not going to have the back pain from carrying too much weight, or I'm just going to feel overall healthier. I'm going to have more energy. And the time base. So in this example, the time base was several. So in September, I'm going to change my eating habits. That's it. I'm going to clean up the snack cupboard, be done with it. In October, I'll start walking more. I'm going to make sure at lunchtime I take a walk instead of sitting. By the holidays, I'll be able to indulge a little because I'll have new, healthier habits. So we've taken all of those, our SMART answer, we've answered all the questions. And so taking those all together, we've come up with a SMART goal. And our SMART goal may be, by December, I will lose 10 pounds through taking a daily walk and following the nutritious, healthy eating plan. I will begin to lead a healthier lifestyle. So we left no question to what we're going to do. So we've answered those questions through each acronym, and that's been able to transform our first brainstorm thought idea of wanting to lose weight. And we've walked ourselves through how we're going to do it and how we're going to make ourselves accountable for each step along the way. So now that you know a little bit about what the SMART goals are, thought we would try an exercise together. And this form was sent out to you through an email, through the invite. So if you have that, you can look at it and keep it for creating your own SMART goals. But I thought I would walk you through one. So the guiding questions we said is, we first have this thought or this goal. So one I thought about, I have a college student at home, so I thought, I want to be a better student. So that's my thought. How do we go about doing that? So remember that we said the specific goal, and there are some leading questions on the worksheet there to help you, is what exactly do you want to accomplish? We try to answer that question. And what is the reason or purpose for this project at all? And maybe who's involved? So I thought of, okay, what exactly do you want to accomplish? I want to improve my overall GPA. So if I'm a student and I want to improve my overall GPA, why? Because I want to apply for new scholarships. And we know that certain scholarships have a criteria that I must meet. So want to be able to do that. And who's going to do it? Me, the student. So we might take that one and end up with, I want to improve my overall GPA so I can apply for new scholarships next year. So that's what's specific about it. We've zoned in on why and what we want to do. So we look at the M for measurable. Is your objective measurable? And what indicators will you look for to measure your progress and success? So for this one, I thought about, so how would I do that? So I'm not real great at math, maybe, as a student. I actually love math myself. But so maybe I will earn a B or better on my math midterm, because that might be the area that's kind of holding me back a little bit and not allowing that GPA to rise to the top. So we're going to set a goal to, we set a goal by saying that, by midterm, I will get a B on there, and that will certainly help me towards my goal. So we will show progress. Is it achievable? Is the objective achievable? Do I have the ability and skills to accomplish my objective? So with that, I thought about, well, how else could I do it? If I'm not real great at math, how am I going to bring that score up? So I thought, well, maybe I could reach out and get some help through a tutor to help me spruce up on my skills. So maybe I will meet with a math tutor every week to help me focus on my weak areas. So that is certainly going to be achievable. Yes, I have to set some time aside to do it, but it's certainly going to get me towards my goals, my end result. Is it relevant? So why is it significant? Well, if you remember in the beginning, my first thought was that I wanted to get my GPA up. So I want to reduce my loans so that I have less debt at graduation. I want to have the ability of scholarships. So is it the right time? Absolutely. Anytime is the right time to better your situation. So timeline of how I will know I am increasing my GPA or working towards it. I still have 6 weeks. I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. Time bound. So on time bound, remember that's when we want to give it a time frame. So the timeline of how we know we will increase our GPA. How would we know? Well, we had said by midterm, we were going to use midterm. So I still have 6 weeks until midterm. This leaves me plenty of time to meet with my tutor and decide if any additional steps are necessary. So I've now answered all of those questions in that final statement. And we gave the timeline of midterm because that was 6 weeks away. So by combining all of the SMART steps in answering those questions, you're able to pull from those and come up with an outcome that will be a clear understanding. So our final SMART goal would be, I will target my lowest class average, which would be math, to raise my GPA by attending tutoring sessions to earn a better grade by midterm. And then hopefully that math score will bring up my GPA. So I found a way to answer those questions, which when you're answering questions, it makes it so much easier to come up with those answers and understand what you're trying to achieve. And I've actually used this method and been able to come up with those outcomes and almost work backwards sometimes to be able to, okay, here's what I want to do. How am I going to get there? Here's where I start. How do I get there? And it's okay to do that and start with the outcome as to, start with your goals and then work what makes sense best for you. So in review, your application should include all of these things. So you're going to have a plan first, and then you're going to have the implementation, which is your project description. You're going to have a way to evaluate it. How are you going to know that you're making progress? And you always should have an assessment. How do you, let's go back. Let's come back together and look and see, where are we? Where are we on our timeline? Are we ahead? Are we behind? Should we give more time to something else? And also, you want it to be capacity building. And also, I think the one that ties all of that together in the middle there is sustainability. So we certainly know that we would love to be able to fund all the programs all the time, but we just don't have the ability to do that. So we always have to think ahead of, how are you going to sustain it? And I always tell all of the grant makers that, that kind of starts in the beginning. Once you have your project and you have your plan, that should be part of it. How are we going to do this? Because we only have this amount of time. And so moving forward, we don't want to create a great product and then we can't sustain it. So that always is part of the process. So that brings us to the application process here at WCCF. And if you haven't made application before, you will have lots of information here that will help you. So how do I apply? Where do I access the application and what will I need? So our application is on our website again, and you're going to go to the grant seekers, grant request, and you're going to read through the project areas and see how yours fits or what project you have that is within that criteria. There will be an apply button. We won't be opening that until July 1st, but there'll be an apply button. So you'll be able to apply right from there. And when you apply, it's going to ask you to set up an account. If you already have an account, you're going to keep that login and put that information in. We ask that you try, if you can, to keep your information, keep your login so we don't have lots of different logins. So if you can still retrieve that, that will be great. So you're gonna, if you don't already have an account, it's going to ask you to create an account. So you'll need to keep that information so you can get back into the site as well. So you'll then be sent to our egrants.net and where you will create an application. So when you enter in there, sometimes it looks a little confusing at times, some folks have told me, but you're going to go on the left and you're going to see opportunities. And any of the opportunities that are open at that time are going to be listed. So you'll be able to, when you see capacity building 1, that's what you're going to click on. And then it will take you to the application will appear on the right side. And you will work through the 5 sections before submitting. There are 5 sections in this application. So first one is, the first couple are pretty standard, organization and contact information. So of course, this is really important to give us the contact information of who we should reach out to if we have any questions. So it's not always the head of their organization. Maybe it's, whoever has been tasked with overseeing this project. So it's important that you give us the person that we should be able to contact if we have questions. After that, it's going to ask you for your organizational budget. So don't get that confused with the grant budget because as you see, it comes later on in the application. So that's your organization budget that we want there. And then there's going to be the grant request, which I'm going to talk about on the next slide. And then your grant budget and your outcomes and supporting documents. And then you will be ready to submit. So our grant request. On the grant request section, it's going to ask you for your project description. And remember, we said we wanted it to be those 3 C's, clear, concise, and compelling. So to do that, this is where you should highlight how your project will be implemented. What are the steps you're taking? What are the timelines? What will be accomplished? What are you hoping to do? And how are you going to do it? The next section is going to ask for your grant budget. And if you see, it has total project support should equal the total budget. And there's a line there that says foundation grants. So that's where you're going to put what you're asking us for. So remember, it was between 5 and 50,000. So before in the past, we've had grants where there's a certain number. We want to know more about your project and then what you need. So, your project may not need 50,000. You may be trying to do something, you have one project in mind. So you want to think about what do you need? What donations do you already have? What support do you already have leading towards this project? Do Do you have a campaign where, you know, maybe you're looking for a match? So that information goes on here, but it's important to remember that those two figures should equal. And so here comes to what we talked about, our outcomes and supporting documents. So you see that we're asked to give 3 outcomes. So I've already showed you the SMART goal approach, and my PowerPoint will be available for you if you have questions, and I'm always here to help. But this is where you're going to use that SMART technique to come up with the outcomes that are going to give a timeline. They're going to let you know, they're going to show to us that you have a well thought out plan of how you're going to execute and what you're going to do and when you're going to meet your goal. So, and at the bottom, you'll see a section that is submit supporting documents that will help reinforce your project plan. So this may be, maybe some of you have already received an estimate of your project, of what you're trying to, you know, what you hope to do. So that would be where you can upload that there. Or maybe you have a picture of the area that you're trying to transform. That may be something that you could put for a supporting document. And so at the end of the application, it's going to give you this page. And this page is the review before you submit. So on this page, it's going to give you all of these, and this was just a sample. When it says go there, these are any parts that maybe you didn't answer. And I will tell you as well, I forgot to mention that you want to save each page. I always hit save, 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 because that way it may go on. So if you get to the end here and you didn't hit save, it may not have kept your information. However, it's going to send you back to any section that you don't have before it's going to let you submit. Kind of that emergency, are you sure? Let's fix this first. So the system will send you back to any incomplete sections, and then when you don't, or you may not have the screen at all, which means that everything is ready to submit. So we are excited for your applications. We know the work that you're doing out there, and we're excited to hear about them through your application. But we're not done yet. So anytime there's a grant, there's also a grant report that we have to do. And sometimes I feel like that we need to know what is expected of us before we even start. So the post-project grant procedure is once the applications close, what will happen is our committee will review them. And so then you'll be notified if you are recipients of the capacity building grant cycle. And then you will receive a grant agreement form. So informing you of the purpose of the funds and the grant reporting process. When you receive that grant agreement, it's very important that you return and send it to us because we cannot process your payment until we have it. So upon receiving that grant agreement, we will process your electronic payment. And that's also important to know that due to COVID, we switched over to electronic payments. So I also have on here that if we don't have your ACH information, we will also be requesting that through a form. So, and we will also send you a confirmation email whenever your payment has processed so that you can begin to look for it on the other side of the transaction. So, and as I said, in the event that we don't have your information, we will have a form that we will also send out to get the funds to you. So how do I complete a grant report? Our grant reports are due 1 year after you've received the grant. And so and they're also available. The grant report is all online and it is available on our website as well. So if you go back to that grant seekers, that's the hit place there. You're going to see the drop down menu for charity grant reports. And there's also, I've included the website here as well to get you there, but that will have a link right to it as well. So you'll be asked to provide 3 outcomes and supporting documents to reinforce your results. So we've now done the project. And so we had our outcomes. How did we do? Were we successful? And it's okay if we weren't, because sometimes that's how we learn. So I don't want you to feel that that's a negative at all. Sometimes it's not, you know, we can get part of it and we know we need to extend. So we just want to ask the questions and hear how you did. So the following questions will be asked about your project. What was your greatest accomplishment through your work? And I think it's important to give you these ahead of time so that you will know what you need to collect while you're doing your work. So, and how did the grant strengthen your ability to fulfill your mission over time? So remember, we said that we wanted maturity in our organization. So in order for us to grow, we have to get there. So this would be, you know, how did you strengthen it? What did you do that made things better? Maybe you created a new system. Maybe now that you have the donor software, you've relieved someone's duties and they can be so much more effective somewhere else. So that's what we want to know. How did you strengthen the ability to fulfill your mission? What was the most significant conflict and obstacles? So we know that every time we start to do something, there's always an obstacle of some sort. Maybe one department had a huge, you know, drop in employees and they were responsible for this part. So you had to regroup. So that's okay. But how did you do it? How did you overcome? Because anytime there's a conflict or, you know, an obstacle, we have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, this isn't what we planned, but how can we fix it and move forward? And how did you measure the success of your project? So your project could be measured in many ways. Did you increase your donors? Did you increase the capacity of your donations through corporate sponsors or, you know, corporate donations? So how did you measure it? Did you give yourself a deadline? Like by December, we're going to, you know, some of the examples in there. How did you measure that? And as a result of this project, what is your next steps? And I think this one's really important because if you have a project in mind and you've gotten your plan together and you get there, it's like, okay, we did that. Now that we see another need or we need to grow this to the next step. What is that? So that we know, okay, great. You know, here's where we were able to fund them with this. And now look, they're going to be able, they already have their wheels turning. You're already starting those goals for the next project. So I wanted you to just please note here is that there is a requirement of 1,000 characters because sometimes people will call in and they'll be like, I can't submit. Well, it's because it's 1,000 characters, which is like 140, 150 words. And it won't let you go on until you answer the question in that format. So just put it on there so that you would know, you know, before it allows you to go on that you will be required to have like a limit of characters. And so also it's going to ask you to upload at least one photo, one testimonial, which I think is important. You should certainly be able to secure some of that while you're doing your work. And maybe a piece of data collected from your grant work. That can be however you choose to do it. But you know, those testimonials certainly tell your story. They're so important. And so if you do submit a photo or a testimonial to us, I do have a form for photo release. So anyone that receives a grant, I will probably send that out to you as well so that you'll have it ahead of time. And why do we want the photos and testimonials? Because we want to help you tell your story. So we would love to feature your organization, maybe in an upcoming newsletter, a social media post, or even on our website. So let us help you share your story. And how best to do that is the people who have benefited from your project or the people who have helped you pull it together or have helped you do that work. Those are all testimonials that are very important and tell your story. So that concludes my section. We would like to open it up to any questions you may have. I'm grateful to have this opportunity to walk you through. I hope that application, by me going through it, has made it more understandable for some of you. And if you haven't been in our system yet to do an application, you'll be able to revert back to these. And as I said, this is the last page, has my contact on it. Reach out to me with any questions. I can help you through those SMART goals if you're not sure. I will help you build an application that is strong. And so, you know, the committee will be the final decision on things. However, we can certainly, I'm here to support you in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know if anyone has any questions that you would like to ask or comments, something that's, you know, in the application that you may have a question on.
Karen, I had one question from the Duncan Miller group. If we submit in group one and we are not given a grant, can we use that same submission for the second grant in September, October?
We will be opening the cycle, And then we will close it, and then we'll reopen it for the second batch. So we could still pull from those as far as, you know what I mean? Those are still in there. So you will certainly be able to keep that. That will still be in there.
Thank you very
That
much.
makes sense. You're welcome. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Karen, in the chat, there's been some conversation about donor software programs. Can you speak about that as a possibility for this cycle and talk about the information session we have coming up next month?
Absolutely. So remind me the date, Alicia, I'm sorry. We've asked a lot of questions. We've been asked a lot of questions about donor software. So what we have done is we put out a survey through the Charity Matters and a link there to get to it. So we put out a survey to all of you, some of you maybe that are on the call. And so everyone seems to be using some different ones, and some people are, still using the Excel sheets because that's what works for them right now. But I talked about that as an example of something that can kind of move your organization, mature your organization. So with all the questions, we thought, well, who best to ask but the people that are using it? So our survey showed us that there was a vast majority of different softwares being used. So from that, we have set up a donor software session, and we are going to have 5 local organizations share out on what they use, the cost of it, and what is effective, what they like about it, what maybe took them a while to get used to, have they outgrown it? So they're going to give us a little bit of a summary on that. So it's really important. And that is
July 15th. I can put the registration link in the chat for anybody
Absolutely.
who has not yet registered.
So that would be a great session to come on, because you're going to get to hear from the people themselves that have used it. And we all know that anytime there's a software, sometimes it's, how is it? And when we talk to the representatives, sometimes they're of course going to push their product. So we thought it was an opportune time for you to hear from those that are using it and what they like and don't like about it, to give you some guidance. And that would be a great project for capacity building, because that would certainly take your organization to, further yourself along. Any other questions?
Karen, that link is now in the chat. So again, for anybody who's interested in registering, you can click that right there. We also have links on the charity bulletin board and a couple of other places. So we'd love to have you join. I think it's going to be a really interesting session.
So I'm assuming you're all brainstorming. You're in that brainstorming stage, right, for your capacity building application. So I hope that, this has given you some thoughts or sparked that thought that you have of extending what your goal is. So, that goal, and just extending it so that we have a clear understanding of what you wish to accomplish and what your timeline of the plan is.
All right. Well, thank you, Karen, for the time you put into putting that together. Questions may not be top of mind right now, but if you're anything like me, you're going to get off the call and think of 15. So Karen is here to help you with any questions you might have as you start to prepare your application. And certainly, we want everyone who's interested in making an application to contact us first, so that, again, we can help you to craft the strongest request possible whenever you do go to submit. So again, I just want to remind everyone that this recording will be posted to the charity bulletin board, along with the handouts and the presentation slides. So you can refer to this content whenever you would like. And we thank you again for your time and attention, and we look forward to learning about all the projects that you have. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.